the way it is going right now, the green card timeline is 150, 200 years. So they will go into their graves before they can expect their green cards. So this is a 10-year solution. In my previous video, I discussed the core problem that is the root cause of the H1B and green card crisis. Okay, in this video, I will give you my solution. All the solutions eventually come up with a basic idea that can be worked upon, that can be improved upon. Okay, just because I'm suggesting this doesn't mean that this is the best solution, but at least I'm trying to give you a good solution of what can be done and what could be possible. So what is the current problem? The current problem is that H1B is allotted based on a lottery system, and that does not make sense at all. How do you differentiate between two candidates, one who has an undergraduate degree from an unknown college from some country, and then another person who has the same undergraduate degree from MIT? They both are put in the same bag, and then a lottery is drawn. How is that fair? Now, it does not differentiate people on the basis of their talent, okay? And it does not even differentiate between candidates based on the need for those candidates. If one company would like to have a candidate and another company would also like to have a candidate of the same profile, but it is a real need for the other company, there is no differentiation between the two people, okay? And what it is leading to is that this year, the H1B lottery is being done for the third time because a lot of fraudulent applications were filed, and these fake profiles are not helping the cause either. And where does the problem even start? It is to do with the laws. Okay, all the laws are like software. Laws like software look good when they are first drafted, but with time they need to be updated, they need to be upgraded, and sometimes there is an overhaul that is needed. Just like software, there are new contingencies that arise, there are new needs that arise. In the case of software, those software makers regularly update the software. But what if the laws are not updated? Again, the same laws that had bugs are taken advantage of for those bugs. If there are bugs in a software, the software is vulnerable, right? Similarly, if there are bugs in the law, those bugs are surely taken advantage of those people who actually want to benefit from the loopholes. Now, what if Windows 95 was made by the US Congress? H1B was passed around the same time in early 90s, right? Now remember, Windows 95 did not even have Wi-Fi. If it was passed by Congress, if it was made by Congress, they would still be debating on how to improve the Ethernet connections because that is the problem. No, the absence of Wi-Fi is one of the problems. The security loopholes are big problems. The capabilities and features of that software are a big problem today. Since 1995, Windows 95 has gone through major updates and absolutely new operating systems have come in, right? But in case of H1B laws, what has happened? Maybe a small minor amendments might have been made, but nothing beyond that. So what is the solution? So this is my solution to overhaul the whole system. So is it a point-based system? Donald Trump, the previous president, had proposed this, and several other countries have been using such systems, right? For example, Australia and Canada use point-based system. Now, is it all that good? It is better, but it is still not good enough. Let me explain why. There are several traits of applications that are not that easily quantifiable. If two people have PhDs, let's say, and one person has more publication, and if that person has those more publications in an unrelated field, if that person has publications in a field that is not all that much needed, would that be a better candidate than another person who is doing top quality work and doing top quality research and publishing in those papers in top journals? Do you go by count or do you go by quality? It is very difficult to differentiate between such people. So an immigration officer who is adjudicating between the two candidates would think that the one who has more publications is necessarily better. That could be far from the truth. Therefore, rather than quantifying the criteria, what the government can do is that they can quantify the need for those applicants. So my solution to this is that you should not try and quantify the traits of the applicants. Instead, a quantification for the need for those applicants can be a great solution. Let me explain how. Okay, H1B and green card solution that I am proposing is that there should be three different types of H1Bs. The uppermost and the most powerful H1B should be H1B Pro, and I'm following Apple products, okay? And there should be fewer of these visas. H1B Pros should be difficult to get. And then you can have H1B Standard and H1B Lite. As you might be able to guess where I'm going with this, okay? These people will have the most benefits and their accessibility to green cards, and as you go down the pyramid, there will be more visas, but their ability to convert to green card becomes harder. Okay, now what is H1B Pro? H1B Pro, if you can make the application fee very high, you are willing to pay, any company should be really willing to pay that much to get that H1B Pro application done, okay? You can reduce the fee for universities and healthcare organizations and some non-profit organizations, but the fee for H1B Pro really indicates that this candidate is really needed. As I said in my solution, that H1B should be based on the real need for the company. And if they really need that candidate, they would be willing to pay this much price, okay? And the second aspect of H1B Pro can be the freedom to change the jobs. Currently, it is not all that easy for a person on H1B to change jobs. Here, they will have all the freedom because that person is supposed to be that talented, right? And because the company is risking that this employee can leave them, they have to really want them to pay $50,000 for the H1B Pro. The third thing is that after 3 years of their service, that employee can get a temporary green card, okay? And they can continue to renew their visa or green card. And lastly, after 6 years of being on that H1B Pro, pay additional $25,000 and get a permanent green card. So you have a clear pathway of just 6 years and you will end up paying $75,000. Now all these small Desi consultancies will not be able to justify to pay this high of an amount, right? And therefore, only big companies are likely to be able to pay this much fee and a guaranteed green card in 6 years for those candidates. And if you argue that this fee is too high, let's be real, if top companies like Amazon, Facebook, and all these FANG companies and all the top companies, if they are making billions in profits, they can surely afford to pay half the annual salary of that employee to keep them. And this is where H1B Pro is the best H1B solution for those deserving people who should get their green card fast. Okay, now moving on. The second solution that I had was H1B Standard, where the application fee is still very high, okay? And then you need to pay $35,000 for the H1B and you need to have an advanced degree, master's or PhD from the United States. This person should have spent enough time as a student in the US and should be talented enough to get that H1B Standard visa. Then the candidate can renew after 3 years and then instant green card after 10 years of being on H1B. Okay, so every 3 years you can renew, and by the time you are renewing for the third time and before you renew it for the fourth time, you can actually get the permanent green card. And another condition that you can have is that they should have worked for that company at the time for at least 2 years when they are getting their green card. And the application fee for their permanent green card that they are eligible after being on H1B Standard for 10 years can be still high enough, $25,000. And this will justify reducing of the timeline to get green card, because let's be real, the way it is going right now, the green card timeline is 150, 200 years. So they will go into their graves before they can expect their green cards. So this is a 10-year solution. Now again, this is not a perfect solution, but this is just a beginning of an idea. And last is your H1B Lite. H1B Lite, the fee should be $10,000 or whatever the current fees is, more or less the same. I think it costs anywhere between $6,000 to $12,000 to eventually get your H1B visa, right? You need to have at least a bachelor's degree, not necessarily from the US. And these are for the most part for those temporary contract workers that companies need for their temporary projects. And then it should be a 3-year visa as it is right now, but your renewal is allowed only once. So on H1B Lite, an employee can be hired by a company and at most they can work for 6 years, and after 6 years they need to return, and there is no pathway of green card for such people. So now you know which category you belong to, what kind of visa you are getting, H1B Pro, Standard or Lite. Your future will be much more certain, and that can actually give a lot of relief for many people. What is happening now is that a lot of people who should belong to this category come to the US with their young children who are born outside of the country, and because the delays are so much and they are not going back, their children end up suffering because they cannot go back to their home country, and they lose the green card line because they need to get their own visa when they turn 21. And if this is a situation where the employee can only stay for 6 years, everybody knows what the situation is, so they will not be complaining. And if they want to, they can actually transition from H1B Lite to an absolutely new application, which could be H1B Standard or H1B Pro. If a visa structure like this is made, that will actually really help the companies that need these skilled people, and it will greatly benefit those immigrants who might be immigrants, who might be non-immigrants who are on H1B Lite visa. And again, this is just a starting idea. Better solutions can be proposed based on this, or some other radical solution could be suggested. Thank you for watching. Jai Hind and God bless America.